I was told to do this by my girl because apparently she thinks my opinions and what I think of the movie Avengers Endgame is very interesting and should be shared to everyone who would like to, you know, see my review. So here it goes. Here it goes. My review of the 2019 Avengers Endgame. I'll be breaking it down to few perspectives and a few aspects of movie making. Script, for instance, the script, the acting, plot lines, storylines, story structure, and overall, as a fan of comics and as a fan of superheroes, I think everybody is, how I feel about certain aspects of the movie. So let's go on to the good points um, of the movie. I particularly believed that the movie's script writing was amazing, especially when it comes to fleshing out the characters, main ones, not the secondaries, but the main characters of the movie. In making you feel so attached to them, showing how vulnerable they are, and that they are also human. So one thing, as a fan of the Marvel comic books, in comparison to the DC comics, the Marvel comic world is very popular due to the fact that its heroes are human. That even though they are powerful, even though they have godlike powers, they are flawed individuals. Especially you can see as it's exemplified in the whole movie in the whole movie by Thor's um, sort of anguish and frustration of his failure um, in Avengers Infinity War. How they all were coping with the idea that Thanos won. When Stark came down, he got so angry of how he also failed and everybody else did. So the script writing really showed how how great they were. An example of this, how human they were. An example of this was it was a comical aspect of the movie. It was a comical part of the movie where Thor was in anxiety, like anxious of, no, that's my mother. She died on this day. Um, it's 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 amazing. The script, I think, then was really good, was because there was two different factors. One, the raccoon wanted the mission to be done and over with, while he wanted to find a person that he can talk to. One part of Thor's flawed, like one part of Thor's main um, conflict was that he was the last of his people, or the last of his family. Loki died in front of his eyes, Odin died, his sister just came out of nowhere, destroyed his home planet, all of his people were killed by Thanos in the movie before. I'm not sure about that though, because apparently Valkyrie is still alive. I don't know how that happened. But a part of the biggest of his conflict was that, he's alone. Like Superman. Right? Like, there's no one else for me to talk to, nobody who can really understand me. Therefore, when he met his mother, maybe I'm a mama's boy, but I felt like it was a very good writing on showing how even like a god is a child to his mother. Another example of a really good script, I think, was when Tony Stark, after running his program of whether the plan could work or not, what's the word? I can't remember. Simulation of the time machine thing. He sat down with Pepper and talked about how, don't you want to stop me, Potts? Don't you want me to stay? Don't you want me to not do this? And Pepper just said, no, you should go and help, because she understands that no matter what she does, no matter what she says, Tony's overwhelming spirit or overwhelming moral code would make him want to do the right thing. And this is brilliant because Iron Man movies, from the first one to the third, and the subsequent Marvel movies where he's involved, the one of his Iron Man's biggest conflicts was that he always needs to do the right thing, especially in the first movie. Like the first part of the movie, the first movie of Iron Man was really good to me. I think it's the best Iron Man movie, was because it showed how Iron Man was a flawed character, was just chasing wealth, was just you know, cocky and everything. And then he was kidnapped and he fought in the war. Then he started to develop his moral conscience, and that drove him to become Iron Man. And it was further explored whether on the second one, whether the armor makes him an Iron Man, and the third one where people started to, the odds are overwhelming and he needs people to come and save him. Like Pepper came and saved him in the third Iron Man, right? And so on. So essentially what I'm trying to show is you that there's the growth of Iron Man is finally tied, I guess, concluded by the idea that the love of his life also has accepted him for who he is, which is the most heroic hero amongst them all. Because if you think about it, this is why the script writing was good. The way he talks to his daughter, the way he talks to Pepper, the way he mentioned to Chris Evans or Captain America that he has the most to lose, because he was the lucky one to still have survived the snap, and Pepper as well, and managed to bring a new life, which is Maggie? Was it Maggie? Can't remember the girl's name now, the daughter's name. He said that he has the most to lose, and yet he is the one who died in the movie. I think the script writing was amazing then, because it built up the end conclusion very well. Like any other superhero movie, where if there's tragic loss or an amazing win, it'll be ending there. It's like, oh, we won against the bad forces, oh we died, you know. But this, it fleshed out all the characters. It fleshed out why it was such a horrendous ending, why it's such a tragedy that Iron Man died. It's not because he was a hero, it was because he had a family, it was because he finally achieved his happiness, it was because finally he could rest. I think that Pepper coming in and delivering her line, not super sad or like, you know, bawling her eyes out, and she just said, "You can rest now, Tony," really exemplified how great the script writing was, and how Iron Man is the best of them, or the best of them all. Also, side note, I'm a big as DJ fan. I honestly feel like he brought the whole thing on his shoulders, like since Iron Man 1. Like without him, nothing would work. Like Chris Evans is just like B class to him, S class, super class level of acting and character, and bringing the character alive and everything. So script writing wise, for the main characters like Tony Stark, Captain America, Hawkeye, and Romanoff, that part where Romanoff died, I think the script writing was good then too. How they were debating with each other while not being concrete on it, so it builds up the audience's anticipation of who's going to sacrifice themselves, who's going to sacrifice him or herself, like, because both of them are there, and you know, and when Romanoff killed her off, it was like a huge surprise to everyone. Nobody predicted that. I think I never predicted that. I knew Tony Stark would die, but I never predicted Black Widow to die. And the way it was done, the script, I think, that led up to that point where they were debating with each other by saying, I think we both know who's going to do it. Not really mentioning that I'm going to do it, you know, not being like a full on hero, yes, I'm going to do it, rather than just like saying, both of them saying, I'm going, you know who's going to do it, you know who's going to do it. That made it like you do not know who's going to do it as an audience watching the movie. I think that was good. I think there's only 10 minutes. Let's move on to the other things that I like. So this is what happens when I talk to Sharifah. We talk about long hours of me just explaining to her things I'm thinking of, and she explaining to me things that she thinks of. I love you. Anyways, so script writing was correct. Was good. Another part of it, which a few of my friends don't like the idea. The beginning of the movie was really slow. The beginning of the movie shows how they were coping with the snap and everything. I think it was done very well. I think as a person who enjoys slow build-ups, who enjoys meticulous planning in movies, in art, and whatever, the slow beginning of the movie, where it showed how everybody is just depressed, how this person who went on a date was talking to his date, and his date started crying, how he started crying. It just showed how it's just like a what if it really happened, like what if right now in reality half of us are gone, like how would the world work? Like there's half of us still, so we might be able to run the electric generators, the internet, blah blah blah, and stuff like that. However, how would normal life be? When Scott Lang came out of the quantum realm, and he came back home, and he was running, and he met this kid on the bike, riding the bike. The kid looked super sad, right? Like super depressed, but he's still riding the bike. So like it just shows how life still goes on, but everybody is super sad. And I was thinking, like, is that how it's going to be? Like, would there be still organized crime? And there is. That's why Hawkeye became the Ronin and tried to kill all these people who entered organized crime, because it shows that in times of tragedy, some bad people will take advantage of it, right? So it's just the slow moving part of the movie in the beginning really begs a lot of question of like, what else is there, like if another person just takes that concept and make it into a separate movie of like what would happen if half of us is just gone suddenly, and just an exploration of the human aspect of that, I would totally enjoy the movie, I would say, if it was done in the right way, the way Avengers Endgame did. Other parts that I like about the movie was, I think those two was the most apparent for me, the things that I liked. Whereas the negative of the movie was a lot. I have a lot of opinions on how, but the negative of the movie. The biggest one is, I am going to make it really short because I think everybody knows about that. The time traveling aspect of the movie. I understand when you make a movie that revolves around time travel, it's going to be really hard because it gets messy, right? Multiple timelines going against itself, I understand they tried to circumvent all of those messiness by saying, oh, you bring the past to the future, but I think they made it into more of a chaotic situation when they chose the ending for Captain America. Knowing that Captain America is going back in time, that creates a separate timeline. However, he joined the Avengers Endgame timeline at the very end when he's grown old. So does that mean that timeline that was created separately, when he chose to stay in this past, rather than being frozen off, that timeline that was created, and then it met the Avengers and timeline? What happened in that timeline? Does that mean their timeline combined? And who was the Captain America during the time that he wasn't Captain America and he chose to have a life? So all those things, became more messy just because of his the choice of how to end his character. I believe I am the opinion that if he is totally done with the movie, he should have been killed off as well. But of course, they cannot do that because they wanted to give some happiness, the way they did giving Tony Stark the happiness of having a family, the happiness of being able to see Spider-Man again. I think the way they did Iron Man was great in this movie. When he was rescued by Captain Marvel, the first thing that he came out of the spaceship was, couldn't save the boy. talking about Spider-Man, and just shows how, like, oh man, how 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 wholesome he is. Is that a good word to use? Or how willing of him to sacrifice himself for somebody else, and how heroic he is, really, that he couldn't save this kid, Spider-Man, his mentors. At the end, when he sees him, and Spider-Man, Tom Holland, just started talking to him. What happened, Captain Stark? Mr. Stark, we fought, and then I got, and then you're here, and then, and he just gave him a hug, and it was played to perfection, I believe. That it just touched my heartstrings. Anyways, so that was me talking about DJ again. Get sidetracked. That was the first negative, the biggest one. I think the most glaring one was the time travel. The second one, I'm not sure whether people saw this or not, but I think I, as a can I say a literature student? I think literature once, right? I understand how storylines are created, like beginning to like expansion to like climax to like conclusion, how story structure works. One of the biggest things that my literary teacher told me then, which I do agree now, the idea of deus ex machina, or things that are contrived. Essentially, things that are born out of convenience for the storyline. My teacher calls it lazy writing. I would agree so. Captain Marvel is my second biggest negative of the movie. You can even argue that it was the biggest. She, in this movie, was only a deus ex machina, a machine of the gods that came out of nowhere to save the day. Tony Stark was in space, out of nowhere. There wasn't any coordinates, there was no communication between him or anyone else. It was literally recording his death lines, his death wish lines to Pepper Potts. Suddenly, out of nowhere, this angelic woman from the glaring of the sun came out and like, I am Captain Marvel, I'm here to save the day. And she brings Stark back to Earth, and Stark is alive. And then like, I'm okay with that if she's doing that, if maybe there's an explanation, or I searched for life in the universe and I found one, there was no explanation how she did it. She just did it, again, lazy writing. It's just, you need to save Tony Stark, so that's good in Captain Marvel to do that. And then in the movie, this was explained like, oh, she wasn't in the movie because she has other places to take care of, but suddenly, if suddenly in the final battle she came back again and managed to destroy the huge spaceship that was giving Thanos forces the upper hand. Which again is a matter of, which is a deus ex machina. Like, it came out of nowhere just to save the day, like convenient. Wow, very convenient. Like, here comes the biggest powerful god, like characters to save the day. I give an example of a good deus ex machina story where an element of convenience became not that wasn't lazy. Main part of it is that if it was explained, like maybe she has a sensor for danger, like Spidey sensors or something that tells her that, oh, people need me, or like, oh yeah, you know what, Tony Stark is out there, I need to save her, but it wasn't explained, I don't think. But a movie that even like a series, like, that was all about deus ex machina, that was contrived as hell, but nobody see it as being contrived, was Harry Potter. Like, the only reason Harry Potter could kill Voldemort, the guy with no nose, was because it was contrived to do that, for him to become the chosen one, because it was contrived. The fact that he became the chosen one was contrived, that he was supposed to be killed, but the mother jumped in front of it. If I'm correct about this, I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, but if I'm right, that gave him the only ability to kill Voldemort, and nobody else can. So if Harry Potter was just one movie, and at the end Harry Potter grew up and killed Voldemort, then it was a huge ass letdown. Like, what? Like, yeah, this is the super most powerful being in Harry Potter's universe. Oh yeah, he is the only person who can kill him because happens to be his only biggest weakness. His only biggest weakness. But the movie invested in that idea for like 7 movies, if I'm not mistaken. They show how he literally couldn't save himself. Everybody else has to save him, but he's the only one who can kill Voldemort just because of this. Whereas everybody else who is powerful enough to save him from everything else cannot do so because he is the chosen one, right? So that makes more sense. That makes it not all lazy writing, because it was explored, the idea that why he was the chosen one, that how Voldemort came to be, what kind of curses that was done that needed something. I don't know, I'm not really a bit, so I cannot really say for sure. But this is just my opinion on like how to write a contrived element in a movie right. But Captain Marvel in Avengers Endgame was a really lazy writing like aspect of the movie. She just came to save the day. Like people then would ask like, oh, but everybody else showed up, right? Like suddenly out of nowhere to help fight the forces. Yeah, but there was a delay, and the reason there was a delay even after Banner snapped as half Banner, half Hulk. No, that's my third point of negative about the movie, right? As half Banner, half Hulk, when he snapped and everybody came back, there was few minutes of not of them like before they came back, was because the students of the sorcery magic stuff is able to is able to transport everyone there. So I think I explained this to my girl, how teleportation, the power of teleportation is a huge power in the Marvel universe. How instant teleportation is something everybody is something very powerful in the movie. So not a lot of heroes in the Marvel universe can do that. The only one who can do that is the Sorcerer Supreme, some really powerful heroes, and the students of Sorcerer Supreme, that circle thing. Only they can do it because it's one of the most powerful aspects of the Marvel universe, the power of magic. But that still took time in the movie Avengers Endgame for people to come. So it wasn't contrived. It wasn't a matter of convenience. There was an explanation to, oh yeah, it took time for them to come in and for them to help out. However, Captain Marvel just coming out of nowhere, supposedly, God knows what, doing what out there, suddenly finding stuck in the middle of the universe, bringing him back home, right, all intact, right? And she looks all this badass. Is lazy writing, just for the sake of, oh, we have to do something so that we can save Tony Stark. Whereas it's logical that these people who just revive from the Soul Stone will come to fight, right? Will come to see their friend and be like, oh wait, yeah, they're fighting right now. Like that was shown when suddenly Spider-Man came out to Tony Stark and be like, hey dude, I don't know what's happening. Oh, but yeah, that's Thanos. We're gonna fight him. Which they were before they were snapped out of existence. They were fighting Thanos in the movie before this. So when they came out of the second snap by Banner, it is logical for them to be like, oh yeah, my fight with Thanos isn't finished yet, and boom, fight with Thanos. But my third criticism of the movie is Bruce Banner. I think another part of lazy writing in this movie is what happened to Bruce Banner. I do not understand why they explain him by just saying, I see him as a cure now rather than a disease. A huge aspect of the character of Bruce Banner is that he is the embodiment of rage, and I personally loved him as the embodiment of rage. Like, he gets stronger the angrier he becomes, and that's a huge part of his character, a huge part of his power. But if you put that down, and if you don't allow it to happen, I think you're robbing the character of one of his biggest aspects, of his biggest one of his biggest characterization, and not giving it pure justice. You don't see him, the journey of him accepting Hulk as a cure. He just says, I accept Hulk as a cure, and now he doesn't even like being angry, whereas Hulk is just a pure embodiment of rage. And this is even shown when they went back to time, and they went back to 2012 in New York, and he had to impersonate the Hulk at that time by being very angry. He says, oh, it's such a waste to be angry. and you're freaking Hulk. You're like the embodiment of anger, strength, and you do not want to use those strength that you are given. Um, I didn't like how Bruce Banner came out in the movie. Um, I I wish that they would have if they would went with the road and they chose, they would have explained or showed the journey even more, but maybe they couldn't do it because of, you know, time constraints. However, then don't, you know, just let him be normal Bruce Banner. Why do you need to have him as smart and strong at the same time? Like, allow him to be just, oh, he's strong when he's angry and he's smart when he's not. Like, that's okay, and you can still use that in the movie and not change anything. Like, why do you need him to be in smart, angry Banner form for the movie? I don't understand. Out of all the things that I liked about the movie was still writing, Tony Stark's death, but also the investment of time. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the only few superhero movies where it's end in sadness, in tragedy, and the fact that they managed to, not really sadness, but it's very tragic. Usually we will be like, oh yeah, I hated the bad guy dies, but in this one you're sad too. And I think I thank the Russo brothers to be able to do that. It's comic books have really good storylines, have really good writing in them, and I think this is one of the few movies that really give justice to how comic book stories are actually really good. So as a nerd of comic books, I feel vilified, not vilified, vindicated, like vindicated by the movie, that, you know, it gives justice to comic book writing, and I hope that in the future people don't, you know, look down on those kids who read comic books. It's cool.